Walters is the place to be on Thursday night, with both the Nats and Commanders playing at the same time. The Commanders' Week 2 matchup in Green Bay kicks off at 8:15, and Walters has plenty of TVs to have you covered just across the street from the ballpark. Hey, let's see if Walters can outdraw Lone Depot Park this Thursday night.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Here's the pitch. Swing a line drive, deep right field. Way back goes Weaver looking up, and this one's going to be gone. Into the first row of the second deck. Bell has done it again. It's 3-0 Nationals, 3 batters in. That's number 20. He has 4 homers and 12 RBIs in his last 8 at-bats. Josh Bell is on fire. The Nationals a quick start here tonight in Miami. Lile back in. Major rocks fires. Swinging a long drive right field toward the corner. Way back it goes, and it's gone. In and out of the second deck. A home run for Daylen Lile. Nationals 6. Marlins 1. Number 5 for Daylen Lile. He continues to swing a red-hot bat. In his 9-game hitting streak now, 7 of 9 games, he's had 2 hits. Runners lead first and third. 2-1 pitch to Ramirez. Swinging a ground ball, slowly hit to short. Abrams has it. He'll throw to first, and this ball game is over. The Nationals bend but don't break. They beat the Marlins 7-5. Terrific performance for Mitchell Parker. His first win since late July, his 8th of the year. He goes 7 2/3 strong, and the Nationals bullpen survives a shaky 9th inning to win the second game of the series.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Lone Depot Park in Miami. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. So we, on the last installment of the podcast, had some fun with the Nationals technically, officially, having not been eliminated from playoff contention for this season. And by the way, they still have not been eliminated from playoff contention for this season. But putting aside the Nats making the postseason this season, here's a more realistic goal. The Nats surpassing the Miami Marlins for 4th place in the National League East. How possible is that? The Nats now have won 7 of their last 8 games. Tuesday evening, a 7-5 win at the Miami Marlins in Game 2 of a 4-game series. The Nats won despite allowing 4 runs over the final 2 innings to trim a 7-1 lead to 7-5. But the Nats did win. They in MLB's 2025 regular season get to 60-84. The Marlins now are 66-79, 5.5 games ahead of the Nats. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us, natschatpodcast@gmail.com. And we have t-shirts, so check out our website, natschatpodcast.com. This installment of Nats Chat brought to us by Mason Kalfas, the top legal recruiter in Washington, D.C. Mason has been with us since our first season. You can reach him at 202-486-3535. Coming up on the show, an update on the Nats search for a new head of baseball operations. Might that search be done before the end of the Nats season? But the Nats on Tuesday evening got more good offense, also got a really nice outing from starting pitcher Mitchell Parker. The Nats now are 7-1 in September. Mark, what do you think? The Nats not finishing last in the division. How possible is that?
I'll take it a step further, Al. You said, could they pass the Marlins and finish 4th? If they do that, there's a shot at passing the Braves as well, who are currently in 4th place. Oh, by the way, they've got 7 games left with the Braves, including a doubleheader next week in D.C. As we record this, they are 4.5 games behind the Braves for 4th place, 5.5 games behind the Marlins for 3rd place. How remarkable would that be if at the end of the season, and I know the record's not going to be any good, but if somehow the Washington Nationals ended up third in the NL East, long way to go. They're going to have to keep playing this way for quite a bit longer to finish this out, and going to have to play really well against Atlanta on top of all that. But just the fact we can even mention that and it doesn't sound completely ludicrous is a testament to what they've done here so far in September. They have clearly shown themselves to be superior to the Marlins. Whatever the standings say, when you watch these two teams play each other as much as we have here lately, there's no question who the better team is between the two. And it's just a matter of what happened earlier in the year, I guess, that leaves them in their current position in the standing.
It's been such a weird season in the National League East. There really has not been that much of a race. I mean, the Philadelphia Phillies are running away with the division. The Braves have been a massive disappointment. The Marlins, again, are a really bad team. The Nats, again, have been a bad team. And so what looked like it could be one of the best divisions in the sport really has not been that way. I mean, Phillies and Mets, okay, but beyond that, this division has been a big flop in a lot of ways. And so that the Nats could actually finish third in this division really is mind-blowing.
Yeah, and again, it's not going to be because they had a good record, not a typical third-place record if they get there. But I think, obviously, the Braves are the biggest disappointment of all. That's a team that was expected to be right in the middle of the race. And you thought, at minimum, that the Braves, the Mets, and the Phillies were all going to be playoff contenders again and maybe challenging each other for a division title. And then you thought on top of that, well, hey, maybe the Nats could be in the mix somehow, at least for a wild card. You figured the Marlins were clearly the number 5 team in the division. So the collapse of the Braves and the hugely disappointing season of the Nationals, I think, turned this division in a very different position. And as you said, the Phillies have kind of owned the Mets. The Mets have their moments where you thought they're going to go on a run, and every time something has gone wrong with them, and especially head-to-head, the Phillies have owned them to the point now where they essentially have clinched the division, even though it's not official yet.
So the Nats offense so far is rolling in this series. 15 runs in the win in Game 1 on Monday evening. 7 more runs in this win in Game 2 on Tuesday evening. The Nats for this game, 7 runs, 10 hits, 4 walks, 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position. The 10 hits were 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and 6 singles. Josh Bell is on fire. We know that this is how he is. When he's bad, he's really bad. When he's good, he can be quite good. And right now, he is on one of these runs during which he is quite good. He is the Nats starting first baseman and number 3 batter, went 1 for 4 with a 3-run homer and an RBI sac fly. Bell in a Nats 3-run first had a 3-run homer to right field for a 3-0 Nats lead. The homer went a projected 409 feet per Statcast. So Josh Bell, over the first 2 games of this series, has 10 RBI. He had 6 RBI on Monday evening, 4 RBI on Tuesday evening. He now has 4 home runs over the last 3 games. It's a funny deal, right? Because none of this really means anything for the Nats. I mean, Bell's a veteran on a 1-year contract. The Nats are a team in a rebuild that isn't working. We're anticipating all kinds of change this offseason. But Josh Bell is hitting, and this is what he can be. And man, when he is struggling, it drives you nuts, and you're saying to yourself, get rid of this guy. But when he is playing well, you know, there are people now talking about maybe Josh Bell should be back next season. Like, that conversation is out there. Good for him for doing well right now.
Yeah, look, this is who he's been his whole career. And for a good number of those years, there were a lot longer stretches of the hot streak than the cold streak. And this year, we know how cold he was there for almost 2 months before he finally figured it out. But, you know, at the end, he's going to have, he's got 20 homers now. He's got an OPS plus over 100. He has been an above average offensive player in the league this year. And somebody else was pointing out to me that I know it's not a lot of games at first base, but he's got positive defensive metrics at first base as well, believe it or not. And so for $6 million they spent on him, I know it hasn't been a very consistent path to get there. And I know it hasn't really worked out the way you would have wanted to. But the numbers in the end are probably going to be not that far off from what you were hoping you were going to get for $6 million from Josh Bell. And there's a lot of questions, of course, heading into the offseason, but I don't think it's outrageous to at least keep him in the back of your mind as an option as a first baseman or DH, given his affordability, given the way he likes DC, given the fact they do need veteran leadership in the worst way. It's kind of one of those things you can't really decide on him until you've decided a bunch of other things first to figure out where you're going with all this in 2026. But I don't think it's outrageous to at least raise the possibility of could he fit into the picture again next year.
The problem, of course, is that the production has come past when things really were viable in terms of this season, right? He was really bad early in the season when the Nats were off to the bad start. And then when things really started to go bad in June, he was still struggling. Then he started to pick things up as we approached the trade deadline, didn't get traded. Then he cooled off again. And now in September, he's doing well. Again, it's nice, but, it's coming in what is essentially the garbage time portion of the season. But yeah, he right now is on a tear, also doing really well right now. And this guy doing really well is, of course, more meaningful. Daylen Lile, he is the Nats starting DH and number 4 batter, 2 for 5 with a solo homer and a single. Lile in a Nats 1-run fifth, a leadoff homer to right field for a 6-1 Nats lead. The homer going a projected 410 feet per StatCast. Daylen Lile is not cooling off. He continues to rake. His OPS for this regular season is at 777. And I was thinking about this. In this time of the Nats being bad, 2020 through 2025, probably the hottest we have seen someone get for the Nats over the final 2 months of one of those seasons was Joey Meneses in 2022. Is this Meneses-esque what Daylen Lile is doing? Obviously, the pedigree is larger, and there are expectations for what Lile could be at the major league level, but he is on a tear right now that, to me anyway, is reminiscent of what Meneses did over those final 2 months of the Nats 2022 season.
Yeah, I think what will always stand out about Joey Meneses was just how it came out of nowhere. And at this point where, after this awful low point for the franchise when they trade Juan Soto to the Padres, they call up this guy, this career minor leaguer, as one of his replacements, and he homers in the first game and then just turned into this phenomenon for 2 months that in the back of your mind, you knew, hey, this is great, but is he really able to do this in the long run? In Lyle's case, he is somebody who's been on everyone's radar for a while. He's still very young at 22. And I think to me, the most impressive thing is he keeps getting better. He struggled some earlier in the year, but he's getting hotter as the season goes on. He's batting .432 over his last 9 games. You mentioned the OPS, 777. CJ Abrams' OPS is 782. I mean, he is right on CJ Abrams' heels. Now, doesn't have as many plate appearances because of the time he spent in the minors, but this is turning into a really productive rookie season for him, to the point, Tim asked me the question the other day, I think it's pretty clear that he is a part of their opening day lineup next year in one role or another. It's been a wonderful development to see that happen. And it's things like that that do give you optimism for next year and beyond, because there is young talent here. And in a lot of these cases, somebody like Lyle stepping up to show that he seems to be the real deal, and not just in a small sample, but over a good number of games now that he's played.
The Nats have so needed guys to step up throughout this rebuild, and Lyle right now is doing that. I give him a ton of credit, and this is not like a 1 or 2 week thing. Like, he's been doing this for well over a month at this point. James Wood has been going well here over these last few games. He is an Nats starting left fielder and number 2 batter, 2 for 4 with a double, a single, a walk, and an RBI fielder's choice grounder. CJ Abrams, he is an Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 2 for 4 with a double, a single, a walk, and a stolen base. Brady House, he did play, and he did do well, at least offensively. He is the Nats starting third baseman and number 7 batter, went 2 for 3 with 2 singles and a walk. Did commit a fielding error in the Marlins' 3-run ninth. Hey, are you a law firm partner or associate looking to transition to a new firm because of compensation, or your firm recently committed to $100 million in pro bono work that you disagree with? If this sounds like you should explore the lateral market and give Mason Kalfas a call. Mason is the top legal recruiter in the Washington, D.C. area. He has been a Nats Chat podcast advertiser since the beginning of our show. Mason will work with you to create a marketing and business plan to pitch to new firms and dramatically increase your compensation and or day-to-day happiness in your new job, Mason has placed partners and associates in just about every large law firm in D.C. and New York, and he can provide plenty of testimonials from candidates he has placed on the outstanding service that they received. You need a strong advocate in your corner to find the best law firm out there for your future career. Call Mason Kalfas today, 202-486-3535.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
He's fine. He's got hit, and he was hit pretty good, but he's fine. And I'm glad that Alfaro got hit too, and I was like, oh my! But it was he's fine. He's gonna be fine.
So you think he'll play in the next 2 days?
I was thinking tomorrow I'm gonna put Alfaro with Irvin, and so we're gonna go from there. I'm gonna give you a little break to Riley, and we'll see what happens.
Riley Adams, he was the Nats starting catcher, number 6 batter, 0 for 1, left the game in the bottom of the second due to taking a foul ball in his groin area. And amazingly, this happened 3 years to the day of the Nats on September 9th, 2022, putting catcher Keibert Ruiz on the 10-day injured list with a testicular contusion that he suffered in an 11-6 win at the St. Louis Cardinals on September 8th, 2022. But, I mean, how about that? How bizarre is that? Adams, what do we know about how he's doing?
It didn't look good, obviously, and because of the history with Keibert Ruiz, you do worry about this kind of stuff. I know it can lead to giggles because of that area of the body, but it's no laughing matter when it happens and it's serious. Remember, Keibert had to go to the hospital that time and missed the rest of the season. Early indication is that it's not nearly anything that bad with Riley Adams. Miguel Cairo said it looks like he's going to be okay. Will probably sit on Wednesday, but the hope would be that he'd come back and catch on Thursday. The state of the Nationals catching corps right now is very shaky. Ruiz, of course, out with the concussions, and at this point doesn't look like he's coming back. Drew Millis out for the season after fracturing and dislocating his finger. Adams now, we'll see. Hopefully he's all right, but he was certainly out for the rest of this game. That left only Jorge Alfaro on the roster as a healthy catcher. Alfaro, who, remember, was out of the big leagues for 2 years and just joined the Nats a week ago, and all of a sudden he's the only healthy guy. And oh, by the way, in the 9th inning of this game, he took one off the groin, and for at least a minute or so, you got worried, what are they going to do? What would they have done? Andres Chaparro was catching warm-up pitches from Mitchell Parker earlier in this game when Alfaro had to strap his gear back on to go out there. I got to tell you, he did not look comfortable behind the plate. Clearly, this is somebody who has not done it before. He would be the emergency catcher. You really hope it doesn't come to that. All of a sudden, their catching core is looking awfully thin.
Yeah, and a shame, too, given how well Riley Adams has been hitting here lately. But this Nats offense, which for so much of the swoon, June, July, August, did not do well, we've seen it come back alive here during this run in September. And so far, this series at the Marlins, I mean, the Nats are owning Marlins pitching in this series. The Nats have looked so good in their plate appearances in this series so far.
And you're seeing it up and down the lineup. Again, it's not one guy carrying the team. I know Bell has been really hot, but it's not like he's the only one doing it. They're getting it from a lot of different guys. That's important. And it's baffling to me how the Marlins are ahead of them in the standings, because just watching these games, it's so clear they're outperforming them. The Nationals are, especially at the plate against Miami's pitchers. It's been a nice thing to see. Unfortunately, they can't face the Marlins pitching staff all the time, but for these games, take full advantage of it and see if you can pad those stats a little bit here in September.
Well, the Nats starting pitcher in this 7-5 win at the Marlins on Tuesday evening was Mitchell Parker. We know that he has not had a good season, but he on Tuesday evening was really good. He officially allowed 2 runs in 7 2/3 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were a home run, a double, and 2 singles. He issued 2 walks. He did record just 2 strikeouts. I mean, it's not like he was dominant, but he did throw a good number of strikes, 96 pitches, 62 strikes, 34 balls, and he was so pitch efficient. Now, the numbers get a little skewed by what happened in his final inning. Both of the walks, one of the singles that he allowed came in a 1-run 8th for the Marlins, and the run scored with Parker out of the game. But he, prior to that inning, again, I cannot stress this enough, the pitch efficiency from Parker was so impressive. The run prevention, obviously, was there as well. This was an impressive outing by Parker. 2 runs in 7 2/3 innings. And you could argue he pitched even better than that in terms of how he did up until that 8th inning.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, he really wanted to finish the 8th. And he was even at that point, there was a shot of thinking he could come back for the 9th. The pitch count was that low. And that was the key to all this. And he said that it really was just about trusting his defense behind him. Don't try for swings and misses. He got a few of them, but not that many. He basically went fastball, curveball, and had success. Let the defense do the work behind him. And you saw how low he kept the pitch count. I mean, he's at 67 pitches through 6 innings, 78 pitches through 7 innings. That's phenomenal. And it gives you the opportunity to go deep in a game. Between this one, the previous start against the Marlins, another one against the Rays that was much better. He's made some real strides here the last 3. It's got to be a confidence booster for him. It's not going to salvage what's been a bad season for him, but maybe it will at least allow him to go into the winter feeling better about himself. And maybe the Nationals will look at him and say, okay, let's at least keep an open mind to the idea of him being part of the rotation next year. Where he was a few weeks ago, it would be hard for the organization to look at that and say, yes, he's definitely one of our top 5 going into next season. Not saying he's guaranteed anything, but if he could finish the season strong, it at least, helps his cause going into spring training next year.
Well, and the other thing, too, with Parker is because he's not a strikeout pitcher, I don't know how viable he would be as a reliever. Like, if the Nats ever said to themselves, okay, we don't like you as a starter, but maybe we use you as a reliever, I don't know that they say that to a Mitchell Parker because of the lack of strikeouts. So if he's going to stick with the Nats and maybe any other team in the majors, he's got to prove himself to be at least decent or passable or palatable as a starting pitcher. And maybe he can at least do that over his final few starts here.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. You look at somebody like Shinosuke Ugasawara, who has been moved to the bullpen and has been pretty effective. I know the stuff isn't overpowering, but his breaking balls and his assortment of pitches are so good that you can fool hitters and get strikeouts. And Parker, that's not really who he is. It's fastball command, curveballs, the occasional changeup, and try to get weak contact. And that's not necessarily what you're looking for out of a bullpen guy. So I agree. If he's going to make it, it's probably going to have to be as a starter. And it's up to him now to finish out the year strong and at least, keep himself in their minds heading into 2026.
Hey, a great supporter of the Nats Chat podcast for years now has been Window Nation. If you want new windows, if you need new windows, contact Window Nation. Tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you. That helps out this podcast a lot. And that gets you a great deal on great Window Nation windows. In fact, now is the best time of year to get new windows. Whether you have old, drafty windows or cheap builder grade windows, September is the perfect month to protect your home from cooler weather. And right now, Window Nation is offering its most popular offer: buy 2 replacement windows, get 2 for free. Plus, you won't pay any interest, pay any monthly payments, or pay any down payment for 2 years. 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. With Window Nation, you get top quality windows from a trusted company, all at a reasonable price, because Window Nation knows that replacing windows is an investment, and Window Nation wants to make the investment affordable to you. And do not miss this great offer from Window Nation. For listeners of the Nats Chat podcast, the offer is good until September 30th. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and you pay nothing for 2 years. 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. That's 866-90-NATION or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
The runners go, the 3-2. Strike 3 called, fastball at the top of the zone. Marcy doesn't like the call, the inning is over. Poulin gets a big out. Marcy is very upset on his way back to the dugout. Clayton McCullough's coming out as well, as he wants Marcy not to get tossed out of this game.
So good offense for the Nats in this 7-5 win at the Marlins on Tuesday evening. Good starting pitching for the Nats in this game. The relief pitching, however, was a different story. 3 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 3 runs in 1 1/3 innings. PJ Poulin officially tossed a third of a scoreless inning, but he in the bottom of the 8th to the first batter he faced gave up a 2-out bases loaded opposite field RBI single by Agustin Ramirez to right field to cut the Nats lead to 7-2. Cole Henry officially allowed 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He in the bottom of the 9th officially allowed 3 runs on a double, a single, a hit by pitch, and a wild pitch. And so Nats interim manager Miguel Cairo, in a game in which the Nats entered the bottom of the 9th with a 7-2 lead, went to his closer/ace reliever, Jose A. Ferrer. Cairo had to deploy Ferrer in this game. That was such a shame. Ferrer officially tossed a third of his scoreless inning, did allow an inherited runner to score, but his time in the game included a fielding error by third baseman Brady House and a passed ball by catcher Jorge Alfaro. You know, we can talk about the NL East standings, but that 9th inning was a reminder that we were watching 2 bad teams in this game. That 9th inning refused to end. The Nats did win, but things actually got a little interesting in that 9th inning.
It was a slog, to be sure, and some of it was poor pitching, but a lot of it was bad defense and kind of like a lack of focus and attention, it felt like, on the National side. Look, you're ahead. You're about to close out the game. You probably felt like it was in the bag all along. There's nobody in the stands. But as Miguel Cairo said, you still got to get that 27th out. And what happened in that 9th inning? You had Cole Henry giving up a 2-run double down the left field line on a ball that was in the air for a long time, and James Wood didn't get there. I'm not saying that he absolutely 100% should have caught the ball, but it should have been a closer play than it was. He just kind of let it fall in for a 2-run double. That was not a good look. Then you have, after the pitching change and Ferrer comes in, you have an error on Brady House on a grounder to third that could have ended the game. You have a passed ball on Alfaro. And then you have a grounder to first that should end the game as well. Josh Bell makes a nice play to get the ball. He looks up to see the pitcher covering first. And oh, wait, Ferrer hadn't moved a muscle and wasn't covering first. And now Bell's got to try to outrace Xavier Edwards. You know who's going to win that race. Edwards gets there, and it keeps the game going. Now, they got out of it all in the end, but that's a reminder there that you cannot assume anything. And I know it's September and there's nobody in the crowd and all that, but you got to finish the game out. One of these days, that 9th inning is going to mean a lot more than this one did. You don't want to get into the habit of just assuming anything. They needed to show more energy, more attention to detail in that final inning, or it could have been a complete disaster. They're 1 hit away from completely blowing that game.
That was a bad brand of baseball that was on display in that 9th inning. And, you know, especially with the Nats in the midst of this run of 14 games in 13 days, for Cairo to have to deploy Ferrer in that spot, that is inexcusable. That is the last thing that should have happened in that 9th inning. And yet that's exactly what happened in that 9th inning. The Nats have a stretch of 4 games in 3 days next week. They have a doubleheader coming up. Ferrer is their best reliever right now. You know, he should not have to be used in a spot like that. That Cairo had to use him there, that was a killer. That was a bad ending to an otherwise good game for this team.
And I don't think he had a choice. I think he had to use him because of the way that was going. And Henry was kind of all over the place. And again, if a couple guys in the field make some plays behind them, then maybe it never gets to that point. But once it did, I think it was the right call to bring him in. But now, there's going to be a game here in the next day or two, in theory, where you'd like somebody like Ferrer to be available in a close game, and maybe he won't be, or maybe he will be available, but be a little less effective than he has been because of all the work he's had to do to put in here lately.
It's amazing. It was looking like Mitchell Parker might toss a complete game. The Nats instead end up using 3 relievers, including Jose A. Ferrer. I mean, raise your hand if you anticipated that as of, say, 7 innings completed in this game. All right, we had some interesting Nats news on Tuesday. Tuesday afternoon reports that Chicago Cubs general manager Carter Hawkins is a candidate to become the head of baseball operations for the Nationals. Carter Hawkins, yes, is the Cubs GM, but he works under Jed Hoyer, who is the Cubs president of baseball operations. Carter Hawkins makes total sense for him to be a candidate for this job. But what is interesting is that if you go by the reporting, the search is on, and interviews are being scheduled, if not already happening. Barry Zverluga, columnist for the Washington Post, he in a post on X on Tuesday evening wrote, quote, "On the national search for a new head of baseball operations, sense with several execs/agents around the sport is this is a legit search. Target does seem to be to finish up by the end of the season. Everyone expects interim Mike DiBartolo to get a look too," end quote. We have wondered when the decision on who runs baseball ops moving forward might be made. Interesting, not stunning, but interesting that decision may well be made before the end of the Nats season.
We also had another report later in the night on Tuesday from Ken Rosenthal and a couple of his colleagues at The Athletic that not just Carter Hawkins of the Cubs, but also Emil Saude of the Diamondbacks and Josh Burns, a big name who currently works for the Dodgers, has DC connections, and a former GM for the Padres and Diamondbacks, are also among the candidates who have been contacted at this point. Doesn't mean they've formally interviewed, or doesn't mean they're accepting that they're going to be part of it all. But I think the takeaway from it all, I don't want to get bogged down in names specifically, and I'm sure there's going to be more that come out. I think the 2 takeaways that I have from this are the number one, they're clearly trying to get ahead of the curve on this and doing this now in September, understanding that yes, it's really important for them to hire the person that's going to take over this job, whether it's somebody outside or whether it is Mike DiBartolo, but that there's also still so much more to do after that. And you don't want to still be looking for your GM deep into October. You want to get this done ideally right around the end of the season or the first week of the offseason, and then move on to the manager, the coaching staff, and any other front office changes that they want to make. So number one, I think that is important to see that they have started that process now and look like they do want to expedite that and not wait too long. The second thing, if you just look at all these names that are out there so far, they're all relatively young, and they all do have some kind of analytics background. Not entirely. Carter Hawkins was a player himself at Vanderbilt and has been a scout, so it's not 100% analytics in every single case. But I do sense a theme there that I think we know the type of GM that they appear to be looking for, and it's probably going to be somebody young. In most cases, somebody who hasn't been a GM before, although Josh Burns has done it. That would be interesting if he was in the mix for it. And people with at least some analytical background to suggest they're going to do things a little bit differently around here. And then the other final point I want to make is this, and we don't know the answer to this question, but is it possible that they're not just necessarily looking for a straight GM, but potentially a president of baseball operations who could come in and work, say, ahead of Mike DiBartolo, who could be retained in a GM capacity, something like that? I don't know for a fact that that's what they're looking at, but somebody like Josh Burns, given his history, is probably more on that higher level of a president of baseball operations. Could they go that kind of route and actually have 2 people running baseball operations with Mike DiBartolo as one of them? I think that is at least on the table right now.
Plenty of teams do that. I mean, I don't think you have to do that, but you certainly can do that. Mike Rizzo for years had the title of both president of baseball operations and general manager. If you get 2 guys, I think that's perfectly fine. Now, you don't want like too many chefs in the kitchen. You do want kind of that one authority running your baseball ops. I think that's probably the healthiest way to go. But if you have 2 smart people, that obviously can be better than 1 smart person. It also strikes me, in theory, a Josh Burns, a Carter Hawkins, not going to come cheap, right? Like if you're Carter Hawkins, you're working for the Cubs, you're probably making pretty good money. You're well regarded. Like you're not just going to jump at an opportunity to be the head of baseball ops for a team that isn't paying you well, isn't willing to spend on what you want. So maybe this is a sign that the Lerner ownership group is willing to spend. The other thing here, and I don't think we should take anything for granted, but the Nats are talking to people. They are interviewing others. And at the very least, even if Mike DiBartolo gets the job running baseball ops, the Nats are hearing the opinions of smart people around baseball. What do you think about what we have? Where have we gone wrong in your opinion? How would you approach this job? I think there's such value in that. So at the very least, the ownership group is going to get input, intel, opinions from a core of really smart people around baseball. And I think that that's very good news.
And at least based on the names that we've seen so far, smart people from teams that are successful and well run in a lot of ways. The Dodgers, we know how successful they are. The Cubs, who have turned it around and look like they're headed to the postseason this year. And the Diamondbacks, while it's been a disappointing season, that's a team that went to the World Series just a couple of years ago. So I like to see that too. I agree. I think it's vital for the Lerner family to seek input from good people outside the organization who work for good teams to find out their thoughts both on the state of the Nationals, what they would do, and how they see an entire baseball operations department running. If at the end of all that, they say to themselves, hey, you know what? We've got our answer already here in-house and Mike DiBartolo, great. That's fine. But you want to make sure that you've fully exhausted this search and heard as many different voices from as many successful organizations as you can to make sure that you know in the end you are getting the right person for the job. And even if you don't hire them, you might get some ideas from them about how to proceed here and where your strengths and weaknesses are as an organization.
Game 3 for the Nats at the Marlins Wednesday evening at 6:40. Jake Irvin will be the Nats starting pitcher. Your Washington Nationals, 4.5 games behind the Braves for 4th in the NL East, 5.5 games behind the Marlins for 3rd in the NL East. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. We have a website too, natschatpodcast.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark Zuckerman, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
The stretch, the delivery. Fastball punch towards center field, falling quickly. Clase dives and it's by him. The ball rolls out near the warning track. Pinckney has scored. Glasser circles around second, heads to third. He'll make it easily standing up. 4-2 Rochester.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.